Well, thanks, Clay, and for that introduction. I'm not sure, indescribably, I think it's good, actually. And welcome everyone to the Restoration Conference today. I'm just going to be here for a minute just to thank folks who made this today possible and tell you a little bit about our agenda for this morning and this afternoon. A bunch of folks helped us all get here today, and let me start with our hosts at the U.S. Customs House and the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian. Of course, Lisa Barron and the rest of the Restoration Work Group that helped set the agenda for today's event. The management partnership at HEP, and as Clay mentioned, now moved over to the Hudson River Foundation, but all our partners at EPA, and of course, our predecessors at NUIPIC, all of which are responsible for financing today's conference. We have a number of terrific speakers and are really thankful for their time, along with some facilitators for the afternoon breakouts. And we also have a number of volunteers who have graciously offered their services to help us out today. And then finally, and certainly not least, the staff of the Foundation and at the Harbor Estuary program who put today's event together. In particular, Kate Boycourt, who, aside from breaking her leg, has done a great job. So, just Kate, good, but next time, let me just set the stage a little bit by talking a little bit about where we are in this process. You all saw Lisa Barron and the crew at the Army Corps have put together an updated executive summary of the Comprehensive Restoration Plan. And hopefully you picked one up on your way inside the auditorium. And the CRIP really kind of sets that blueprint for us, and something that has many hands, helped create it, and it's going to take even more hands to make it happen. And that's really all of you, right? I mean, all of you, the people who are at this conference and work for registration, are really the sort of boots on the ground that make restoration happen around the harbor. And so our focus today is to really kind of assess where we are in the CRIP, and our first panel, led by Lisa and a number of other partners from the Restoration Work Group, are going to give you an update on the progress to date and where we might be going. But we're also going to be kind of then transitioning and focusing on how we continue that progress, how the CRIP must evolve to deal with our changing climate. It's clear that those issues, whether it's sea level rise or extreme events, have really sort of changed the dynamic for the harbor and for the restoration discussion. And again, many of you are very much immersed in all of those nitty-gritty details. But I think you would all recognize that there's a lot of unanswered questions that we need to solve. Starting from, continuing progress given rising sea levels in terms of wetland restoration, for example. Understanding how, living shorelines, nature-based engineering can both address resiliency as well as advanced restoration goals. In particular, how we can measure those contributions so that it's meaningful, whether it's to a public agency, to regulators, to the budget offices at the federal, state, or local level. And then, finally, and perhaps most critically, how do we engage communities in those conversations so that they recognize the value of those efforts as they're thinking about their homes and their loved ones and their protection. So I think we all know that in the more than 18 months since Sandy, there's been an incredible ferment on all those questions. A lot of incredibly exciting projects. Rebuild by Design announced their winners yesterday. So a lot of great stuff is happening. And you're going to hear about a lot of those projects today in some of the panels. But it's also clear that we don't have all the answers. And again, that's where I think this group and the folks here today are critical. What we want to do is sort of, again, what we try to do is kind of balance sort of presenting folks, presenting information, giving an opportunity for the project managers and the leaders on these different efforts to let folks know what they're doing, the issues that they're facing, how they're trying to overcome those challenges. But we've also asked all the speakers and all the plenary panels to make very, very brief remarks and allow plenty of time for questions and answers. We'll have volunteers with note cards to take down your questions, circulating so that the moderator can ask the panelists and address those directly. And then, of course, in the afternoon, we scheduled some breakout sessions so that we can really drill down with some expert facilitators on some particular topics related to restoration priorities, related to resiliency, related to community engagement, and related to resources. And that's how we're going to close today, as a discussion on, because as we all know, while Sandy provided a fair amount of funding for resiliency work, and some of that can go towards restoration, there's some questions about how that's going to happen. What does restoration really mean in that context? And then there's the ongoing need for resources going forward, in particular for monitoring and maintenance of those systems. So that's something that'll be our closing session today at 4 o'clock. Now, where we are going to go as a program is really sort of part of that equation as well. And what we're hoping to do is, out of today's conversations and some follow-up work and working with our restoration work group, is really help set an agenda for both the sort of the scientific work as well as the management concerns and monitoring concerns going forward. And what we'll do is, out of today's conversations, we'll draft a set of proceedings and come back to all of you folks. And really, again, because I think at the end of the day, the Harbor and Estuary program, there's like 3 of us, right? So the goal is really to engage a lot of our partners through our different efforts to make all of that happen. So with that, I'm going to we'll start with our first plenary panel. And it's my pleasure to introduce Lisa Barron, our esteemed chair of the Restoration Work Group. Lisa is a project manager at the Army Corps of Engineers. Her full bio is in your packet, as are all the bios of the speakers today. And Lisa is going to give us a little bit of an update on CRIP and introduce our first panel.